Stop everything you are doing right now. Because what Jay-Z and Beyonce just pulled off inside Yankee Stadium was not a concert. It was not a performance. It was a full-blown cultural execution in front of 50,000 witnesses, and the internet has not recovered since the footage dropped. I am telling you right now, if you thought you had seen everything these two could possibly do on a stage, baby, you were not ready. Because what happened on night one in the Bronx has fans, critics, and even people who do not listen to rap sitting straight up in their chairs asking one single question. Did Beyonce just reclaim a song that was never hers and body it so hard that the original version is now collecting dust in the archives? Chile, I hope y'all are seated for this one, because it is messier, pettier, and more legendary than anything the timeline has served us all year. So let me set the table for the people who somehow missed it. Word on the street is Jay-Z announced a stadium moment, and people thought, okay, cute, a legacy act doing a legacy show. We have seen this movie before. Jay-Z has been in his elder statesman era for a minute now, dropping the occasional verse, showing up to collect billionaire checks, and letting the catalog do the talking. Fans joked that the man had practically retired into a suit and a glass of wine. And honestly, that is exactly why nobody was prepared. Nobody. Because Jay-Z did not come to Yankee Stadium to reminisce. Jay-Z came to Yankee Stadium to make a statement so loud that the echoes are still bouncing off the bleachers. From the second the lights went down and that heartbeat-thumping drum rolled through the stadium like a warning siren, the crowd knew. The crowd knew. People inside that building described the intro as feeling like a pulse, like the whole stadium synced up to one rhythm. And then Jay-Z walked out, and it was over. Over. The reports coming out of that venue say grown men were screaming, strangers were hugging, and phones were shaking in people's hands because nobody could believe what they were watching in real time. And here is where it gets crazy. Because the show itself was only the first layer of the story. The real tea, the tea that has the comment sections foaming at the mouth, started the moment those shoes hit the stage. Now if you know, you know. There is a very specific walk, a very specific silhouette, a very specific energy that only one woman on this planet carries into an arena, and the second the cameras caught that stride, the entire stadium lost its collective mind. It was Beyonce. Beyonce, who was not announced, not teased, not hinted at on any flyer, came gliding out onto her husband's stage like she owned the deed to the building, and honestly, at that point, she did. Fans who were there said the scream that went up was so loud it registered like a second sound system. One attendee swore the concrete vibrated. Another said she blacked out for a full 10 seconds and came back to consciousness already crying. That is not a guest appearance. That is a takeover. Now let me tell you why this matters, because this is not just a cute married couple moment for the scrapbook. This is strategic. This is surgical. And if you understand the history between these two in this particular song, you understand that what Beyonce did on that stage was nothing short of a declaration of ownership in front of the entire industry. See, the song in question has a lineage, and the lineage is exactly why the fan bases are at war right now. Originally, this record was connected to a totally different voice, a powerhouse vocalist in her own right, the kind of singer other singers study. Her version lives in the culture. People who grew up on it treat it like scripture. And for years, that version was the version, full stop, end of discussion, do not pass go. But then Jay-Z and Beyonce got their hands on the record, flipped it, refitted it, and turned it into a duet moment that has lived in their show for years. And every single time Beyonce performs it, the debate restarts. Every single time. But something about this particular night hit different, and I need you to lock in on this part, because this is the part the blogs are scared to say out loud. This was not Beyonce singing the song. This was Beyonce repossessing the song. There is a difference, and the difference is the reason the internet has split into two armed camps. On one side, you have the loyalists who say the original is untouchable, that no amount of star power, no amount of stadium spectacle, no amount of marriage chemistry can ever outrank the first recording. And I respect that position. I genuinely do. That original voice deserves her flowers while she can still smell them, and honestly, the whole situation has restarted a much bigger conversation about how we treat our legends. Why is it that we only celebrate people properly once it is too late? Why do we wait until the funeral to finally say what should have been said at the peak? That conversation matters, and we are going to sit in it for a second before this is over, because Beyonce stepping into this song did something unexpected. It did not erase the original. It sent an entire generation sprinting back to discover the original. Streams on the older version reportedly spiked within hours. Younger fans who had never even heard of the first recording were suddenly in the comments asking where this song had been all their lives. Tell me that is not the wildest plot twist of the year. A stadium performance so massive that it resurrected its own predecessor. But hold on, because the other side of the timeline is not here for any of that nuance. The other side is saying, plainly and loudly, that Beyonce owns this record now, that the way she delivered it at Yankee Stadium closed the case permanently, that when a vocalist of her caliber decides a song is hers, the paperwork does not matter, the history does not matter, the only thing that matters is who makes you feel it more. And baby, if you watch the footage with honest eyes, it is hard to argue against them. The tone was deeper. The control was sharper. The runs were not just runs, they were statements, each one landing like a stamp on a deed. There is a specific moment in the clip, and if you have seen it you know exactly which one I mean, where her voice drops into this low, grown, thunderous register, and the entire crowd reacts like they witnessed a crime. That is not singing. That is testimony. People who have followed Beyonce since the beginning heard it immediately and started posting that her voice has entered a whole new era, a seasoned era, the kind of era that only comes from decades of stages. And honestly, the receipts are right there in the recording. And let us talk about Jay-Z for a second, because Jay-Z understood the assignment in a way that honestly deserves its own paragraph. Jay-Z did not fight her for the moment. Jay-Z set the table, lit the candles, and stepped back like a man who knows exactly who he married. Watch the footage. Watch Jay-Z's face when Beyonce hits that section. That is the face of a man who has seen this show 100 times and still is not immune. He is up there doing his verse, holding his own like the living legend he is. But the second she opens her mouth, you can see it. He knows the building belongs to her now. And the most telling part is that he wanted it that way. Every step of the staging, every lighting cue, every beat of the arrangement was built to funnel that crowd's energy straight into her entrance. This was not a man being upstaged. This was a man engineering his wife's coronation inside his own event. And there is something so quietly powerful about that. The timeline has not stopped talking about it since. Now, here is where I need y'all to lean in, because the walk itself has become its own breaking news story. I am not exaggerating. There are entire threads, entire breakdowns, entire slow-motion edits dedicated to the way Beyonce crossed that stage. And once you understand what the experts are saying about it, you will never watch the clip the same way again. According to people who actually study this craft, that walk is not just a walk. That is runway technique, the kind that models train years to perfect, the kind that is supposed to live on a catwalk in Paris, not on a 50,000-seat stadium floor in the Bronx. Fashion insiders were in the comments within hours, pointing out the hip placement, the shoulder discipline, the pacing, the way each step landed exactly on the drum like the drum was built around her body and not the other way around. And the question that has everybody talking is simple. How does a person who is already the greatest performer alive also move like she could close a couture show tomorrow morning? It does not seem fair. It genuinely does not seem fair, and yet there it is, in high definition, from 17 different fan angles. Because of course the Beyhive had every corner of that stadium covered like a surveillance operation. And this is the part that separates the casual viewers from the people who actually understand performance, so stay with me. There is a long-standing conversation about Beyonce and stages, about how the stage is not a place she visits, but a place she comes from. Like she was born mid-choreography under a spotlight and just kept going. People joke that she has a stage walk and a normal life walk, that off stage, she moves like a regular human being, but the second her foot touches a platform, something ancient activates. And watching the Yankee Stadium footage, you cannot unsee it. The moment the lights hit her, the posture changes, the energy changes, the air changes. One fan commented that you can literally see the transformation happen in real time, frame by frame, like watching a switch get flipped. And the wildest part? Jay-Z knew exactly when it would happen. The staging shows it. The arrangement shows it. This was choreographed chemistry from two people who have spent 2 decades learning how to weaponize each other's greatness. And at Yankee Stadium, the weapon fired at maximum capacity. But wait, because I have not even gotten to the detail that sent the single people of the internet into a full meltdown. There is a moment, and if you are married or booed up you might want to look away, where the two of them lock into each other on that stage in a way that had the timeline simultaneously swooning and spiraling. The exchange, the eye contact, the way the lyrics bounce between them like a private conversation the rest of us are just lucky to overhear. The comment sections under the clip are a war zone of emotions. Half the people are saying this is what partnership looks like. This is what 2 whole decades of building an empire side by side looks like. This is the standard. And the other half are joking through tears that they need to go learn a trade, learn to cut hair, learn something, anything. Because clearly love at this level requires skills the rest of us do not have. I saw one comment that said watching these two perform together should come with a warning label for single viewers, and honestly, where's the lie? Where's the lie? And can we be real about something else for a second? Because this needs to be said. The way Beyonce addressed Jay-Z mid-performance, that little pivot, that playful challenge tucked inside the lyric, the fans caught it instantly and clipped it instantly, and now it is its own viral moment living a separate life from the main footage. She looked at her husband, Jay-Z, her actual husband of all these years, and delivered the line like she was daring him to respond. And Jay-Z just stood there grinning like a man who lost the bet on purpose. It is that kind of micro-moment, that 2-second flash of real marriage inside a stadium spectacle, that no stage designer can manufacture and no amount of money can buy. It only exists because it is real, and the audience felt the realness through the screens of their phones, which is exactly why this clip is doing numbers that full album rollouts pray for. Now let me zoom out and talk about what this night means for Jay-Z specifically, because the man just pulled off one of the slickest legacy maneuvers in recent music history, and half the timeline has not even clocked it yet. Think about the narrative that existed before this show. The narrative was that Jay-Z had quietly slid into his chairman era, that the stadium-chasing days were behind him, that the hits would live on streaming playlists while the man himself enjoyed his billions in peace. And there was nothing wrong with that narrative. It was comfortable. It was earned. But comfortable narratives are exactly what legends destroy, and that is precisely what happened in the Bronx. Because Jay-Z did not just show up. Jay-Z showed out. The breath control, the pocket, the command of a crowd that size, at this stage of his career, had longtime hip-hop heads openly admitting they had forgotten just how suffocating his live presence is. One viral post said watching him work that crowd felt like watching a master remind a classroom full of students who wrote the textbook, and I have not seen a more accurate description anywhere. And the setlist choices tell their own story, because this was not a lazy greatest hits jog. Insiders and fans who attended are saying the arrangement of the night was deliberate from top to bottom, built like a film, with rising tension, quiet pockets, and detonations exactly where they would hurt the most. The heartbeat intro, the pacing of the early records, the way the energy was allowed to breathe before the big moments. This is the work of a man who has forgotten more about live show construction than most touring acts will ever learn. And then, at the exact moment the stadium's energy hit its ceiling, here come those shoes. Here comes that walk. Here comes Beyonce. Whether you believe it was spontaneous magic or military-level planning, and I personally believe it was military-level planning dressed up as spontaneous magic, the result was the same. A moment so big it swallowed the entire news cycle whole. But hold on, because the conversation does not stop at performance quality. Oh no. The moment the footage spread, the familiar shadows came crawling out, and we have to address them. Because this is exactly what happens every single time greatness puts on a show this undeniable. The hate started trickling in within hours. You had people calling it overhyped. You had people calling it nostalgia bait. You had the usual suspects squinting at a stadium of 50,000 screaming fans and typing, with their whole chest, that it was not that deep. And look, everyone is entitled to an opinion. But can we talk about what is actually underneath that reflex? Because there is a pattern here, and the pattern is tired. Every time two black artists operate at this level, at this scale, with this much command over their craft and their business, a certain corner of the internet scrambles to find the flaw. It is never just a good show. It has to be overhyped. It is never just a legendary marriage. It has to be a PR arrangement. It is never just excellence. There has to be a catch. And I am asking the question directly. Why? Why is the reflex to shrink what happened in that stadium instead of simply admitting we watched two of the greatest to ever do it? Remind everybody why the crowns never left their heads. And before anybody tries to twist that, let me be clear about something, because this is the part where the conversation actually gets good. The backlash, the nitpicking, the weird energy, none of it touched the moment. Not even slightly. If anything, it proved the moment. Because you do not get this volume of discourse, this volume of think pieces, this volume of reaction videos, for something mediocre. Mediocrity gets ignored. Greatness gets debated. And this performance is being debated in barbershops, in group chats, on morning shows, in comment sections with hundreds of thousands of replies. The people who were not there are openly grieving in the replies, calling it a once-in-a-decade event they will regret missing for the rest of their lives. The people who were there are posting their shaky, vertical, off-center phone footage like it is the moon landing. And honestly, they are both right. Now I need to go deeper on the vocal performance itself, because this is the detail the music community is obsessing over, and once you hear it, you cannot unhear it. Vocal coaches, and yes, actual vocal coaches are weighing in on this clip, have been pointing to the texture of Beyonce's voice on this night as proof of something they have been predicting for years. The voice has settled into its mature register, they say, and instead of losing power with age, it has gained weight, gained authority. The high notes still sparkle, but it is the low end, that dark, resonant, almost spoken power in the lower range, that had these professionals rewinding the footage like game tape. One breakdown compared it to fine wine math, the idea that certain voices do not decline, they deepen, and the deepening makes them more dangerous, not less. And when you pair that deepening voice with a song that already carries decades of emotional history inside its lyrics, you get combustion. That is what happened on that stage. Combustion. The words of the song, the weight of the voice, the presence of her husband beside her, the 50,000 people breathing in sync. All of it detonated at once, and the shockwave is still traveling. And this is where the story loops back to the conversation I flagged earlier. So let us deal with it now, head on. The flowers conversation. Because one of the most viral reactions to this entire event was not even about the performance. It was about appreciation itself. Fans started posting that this night was proof of a principle we all claim to believe but rarely practice. Give people their flowers while they can still smell them. Jay-Z got to stand on that stage, alive, healthy, powerful, and hear a stadium roar his name. The original voices behind this song's history are being rediscovered, replayed, and celebrated right now, while it still matters to them. Beyonce got to watch her peers, her juniors, and her own audience collectively admit, in real time, that they are watching one of the greatest to ever breathe into a microphone. That is the correct order of things. And the fact that it took one performance to remind everybody of that tells you how far the culture had drifted from it. There is a reason that sentiment exploded across the timeline the second the clip landed. People are hungry to celebrate each other properly. They just needed a moment big enough to permit it. But here is the twist inside the twist, and I promised you layers, so let us unwrap this one. While half the internet was busy celebrating, another half was busy asking a much sneakier question. What does this night mean for what comes next? Because these two do not do anything by accident. Nothing. Not a surprise entrance, not a stadium show, not a single camera angle. So when Jay-Z resurfaces with a stadium spectacle this polished, and Beyonce appears inside, it looking and sounding like the final boss of live music, the industry starts doing math. Is this a one-off victory lap? Or is this the opening move of something much bigger? The fans have theories, and some of those theories will make your jaw hit the floor. So keep watching, because the speculation about what is coming next might be even wilder than what already happened. Let us start with the most obvious theory, the one dominating every fan forum right now. The tour theory. The logic is simple. Artists do not rehearse chemistry like this, staging like this, production like this, for one night and one night only. Shows of this scale cost millions to design, and the design work visible in the Yankee Stadium footage, the lighting architecture, the drum programming, the entrance engineering, screams long-term infrastructure. Fans are convinced that this night was a proof of concept, a test launch, a signal flare. And if that is true, then the cities that have not been announced yet are about to become the most stressful ticket queues in internet history. People are already joking that they are preloading their payment apps, sleeping in their browsers, doing cardio, so they can survive the queue. That is not normal fan behavior. That is what happens when a fan base smells blood in the water. Then there is the album theory, and this one has the Beyhive acting downright unwell. Because let us not forget, the machine has been in motion for a while now. The project cycles, the visual drops, the genre experiments that had purists clutching their pearls while the charts bent to her will. Every era of Beyonce has arrived with a specific sound, a specific silhouette, a specific kind of shock, and fans have learned to read the signs like storm clouds. A surprise stadium appearance, at maximum vocal power, on a song about devotion and partnership, beside Jay-Z, the man who started this whole saga with Beyonce 2 decades ago. To the trained eye, that is not random. That is a chapter marker. And the whisper spreading through the fan spaces right now is that the next era is being teased in plain sight. That the stadium moment was not the celebration of an ending, but the ignition of a beginning. Some fans are even pointing at the styling, the sound palette, the staging tone, and mapping it against previous rollout patterns like detectives with corkboards and red string. Are they reaching? Maybe. But with these two, the reaches have a funny way of becoming headlines. And we have to talk about the documentary speculation too, because you already know it is coming. Every time Beyonce does anything at this scale, the camera question follows immediately behind it. There is no way, fans argue, absolutely no way, that a moment this engineered went undocumented by a professional crew. The fan footage is everywhere, sure, but fan footage is not the point. The point is that events like this get filmed properly, archived properly, and eventually released properly, usually at the exact moment the next era needs a rocket strapped to its back. So now the timeline is in a permanent state of surveillance, zooming into background shots, hunting for camera cranes, analyzing whether that one guy near the stage was holding a broadcast rig or just a very committed phone. The paranoia is hilarious and completely justified, because history says they are probably right. Meanwhile, back on planet Earth, the industry reaction has been its own show. Artists, producers, and performers across genres have been publicly reacting to the footage, and the tone of those reactions is what has people talking. It is not polite applause. It is reverence. Young artists are posting that they are rewatching the clip to study crowd control. Established names are calling it a masterclass. And here is the detail I find most delicious. Multiple performers have specifically praised the restraint of the staging, the fact that two people with unlimited budgets chose tension and timing over fireworks and gimmicks. No army of distractions. No desperate spectacle. Just a heartbeat drum, a legend on the mic, a queen on the walk, and 50,000 people losing their minds. In an era where live shows compete to be the loudest, the biggest, the most overloaded, Jay-Z and Beyonce walked into Yankee Stadium and proved that command beats chaos every single time. Now, I want to address the conversation happening in the quieter corners of the internet, the one about what this means for the culture at large. Because something shifted after this footage spread, and you could feel it in the comment sections. People started posting their own stories, their own memories, the concerts that changed them, the albums that raised them, the artists they never got to see, and the ones they are grateful they did. The thread turned into this massive, rolling celebration of live music itself, of what it means to stand in a crowd and feel a song in your chest with thousands of strangers. And in the middle of all that, the most repeated sentiment was gratitude. Gratitude that these two are still here, still working, still pushing the ceiling higher when they could have coasted a decade ago. That is the real headline hiding under the viral moment. Not the walk, not the song, not even the surprise. The headline is that greatness showed up, in person, at full power, and reminded an entire generation why live music matters at all. But now we arrive at the moment everybody has been circling, the moment that turned a great performance into a cultural event, and I have saved it for here on purpose, because it deserves the full weight of a proper build-up. It is the stretch of the song where Beyonce stops performing and starts testifying. You have seen the clip. The camera is tight, the stadium is roaring, Jay-Z is right there in her orbit, and she plants her feet and unleashes that final run, the one where every note sounds like it is being pulled up from the floor of the building itself. No rush, no strain, just total, terrifying control. And then, right at the peak, she turns toward her husband and delivers the line directly at him, and the entire stadium reacts like a verdict just got read. 50,000 people, one sound. The roar reportedly shook the upper deck. And in that instant, every debate, every comparison, every comment section war about who owns this song went completely silent, because the answer was standing under the lights in heels, holding a microphone, looking like the whole thing cost her nothing. Watch Jay-Z in that exact frame. Watch him closely, because his reaction is the review that matters most. This is a man who has shared stages with the greatest performers of multiple generations, who has seen everything this industry can produce. And in that moment, he is not a mogul, not a billionaire, not a legend. He is a fan. He is standing there with the expression of a man watching magic happen 3 feet away and deciding, wisely, to simply let it happen. And then the two of them ride the final stretch of the song together, trading energy like they have been doing since the earliest days of their story, and the stadium gives them a standing ovation that, according to multiple attendees, just would not stop. People were crying. People were grabbing strangers. People were holding their phones in the air, not even to film anymore, just to be part of it. That is the difference between a concert and a moment. A concert entertains you. A moment marks you. And the aftermath has been just as fascinating as the night itself. The clip has now been pulled apart, measured, and analyzed from every conceivable angle, and each new breakdown only makes it look better. The staging analysis says the entrance was timed to the exact bar where the crowd's energy peaked, which means the surprise was not luck, it was architecture. The vocal analyses keep concluding that this might be the strongest live vocal of her entire stadium era. The fashion breakdowns identified the walk as textbook runway discipline executed on uneven stadium flooring, in heels, against wind, at night, which is apparently close to impossible. Even the skeptics, the ones who came to the comments ready to fight, have been quietly deleting their drafts, because there is simply no angle of attack that survives contact with the footage. When was the last time the internet looked at something this big and this dissected, and the verdict just kept getting stronger? It does not happen. Except this time, it happened. And through all of it, neither of them has said a single public word about the noise. No statement. No interview. No victory lap on social media. Just silence, the loudest kind. from two people who have never once needed to explain a moment after the moment itself finished talking. That silence is doing more work than any press release ever could, because it leaves the whole conversation exactly where they want it, with us. Arguing, celebrating, theorizing, replaying. Every think piece, every reaction video, every barbershop debate is free promotion for whatever they are building behind that silence. And trust me, they are building something. You do not light a flare that bright unless you want the whole world watching the sky. And because context is everything, let us quickly rewind the tape on this partnership, because the people asking why this moment hit so hard need to understand the foundation it was built on. These two have been constructing this on-stage language for over 20 years. The early collaborations, the surprise drop-ins, the joint tours that sold out before the posters dried, the album that turned their private storms into public art. Every phase added a layer. And what makes the Yankee Stadium footage feel so heavy is that you can see every one of those layers stacked inside it. The playful competitive edge from the early years, the polished spectacle of the stadium era, the scar tissue, and the survival that turned a celebrity couple into a cultural institution. When they trade lines on that stage now, it is not two stars sharing a spotlight. It is 2 decades of shared history talking to each other in real time, and the crowd can feel the difference even if they cannot name it. And the fallout inside the fan economy has been its own circus, because the second that footage went viral, demand for anything connected to these two detonated. Ticket marketplaces reportedly lit up within hours, with fans hunting for any date, any city, any seat, on the pure suspicion that more shows might materialize. Resale prices for anything even rumored to involve a joint appearance started climbing before a single new date was even confirmed. Travel groups started organizing around the speculation, people literally planning trips around shows that do not officially exist yet, because the fear of missing the next chapter is stronger than the fear of wasted money. And the overseas fans have entered the chat with zero chill, openly demanding that if there is a next leg, it had better cross the ocean, with entire comment threads turned into city-by-city bidding wars. London is campaigning. Paris is campaigning. Every major stadium city on the map is suddenly lobbying in the replies like they are hosting the Olympics, and the funniest part is that none of it is confirmed. That is the gravitational pull we are dealing with here. One unannounced walk across one stage, and the global live music market starts rearranging itself around a rumor. Meanwhile, the cover conversation refuses to die, and honestly, it has produced the best kind of chaos, because now the performance clips are being stitched side by side with the original recordings, and the mashups are everywhere. Fans are lining up the two versions phrase by phrase, comparing runs, comparing ad-libs, comparing the emotional temperature of each delivery, and the comment sections under those stitches are an absolute battlefield. Grandparents are arguing with teenagers. Music teachers are arguing with stans. And the most beautiful thing happening in the middle of all that warfare is that both versions are winning. The original is being streamed like it just dropped last week, and the stadium rendition is being passed around like contraband. 2 generations of music lovers are discovering each other's anthem at the same time, and they have one surprise appearance in the Bronx to thank for it. So let us bring it all the way back to where we started. I told you at the top that this was not a concert, and now you understand exactly what I meant. A concert is an event you attend. What happened in the Bronx was an event that is still happening, right now, in every group chat and comment thread it touches. Jay-Z walked into Yankee Stadium carrying a narrative that said he was done, and he walked out carrying a reminder that legends do not expire, they reload. Beyonce walked in as a surprise guest and walked out as the undisputed owner of a song, a stage, a news cycle, and honestly, at this point, the entire summer. The walk is already legendary. The vocal is already being studied. The marriage moment is already a meme, a mood board, and a relationship standard all at once. And the song at the center of it all just gained a second life and introduced its original history to millions of brand new listeners. Everybody won. The originals won. The couple won. The culture won. The only people who lost are the ones who decided to hate on greatness instead of simply witnessing it. And honestly, that was their choice. And it is a choice they seem to make every single time. But here is my question for you, and I need everybody in the comments on this one, because the debate is nowhere near settled. Does that song officially belong to Beyonce now? Or does the original recording still hold the crown no matter how many stadiums shake? Pick your side and defend it below, respectfully or otherwise, because I will be in there reading every single one. And second question, maybe the bigger one. Was this night a victory lap, or was it the first domino of the next era? Because if a tour announcement drops in the next few weeks, I want receipts on who called it first, so timestamp your predictions right now while you still can. And if you were actually inside that stadium, I need you in the comments immediately, because I want to know what the footage cannot capture. What did that heartbeat intro feel like in your chest? What did 50,000 people screaming actually sound like from the inside? Tell us everything. And before you go, let me leave you with this thought, because it is the one I cannot shake. We spend so much time arguing about rankings and ownership and who did what better, that sometimes we forget the simplest truth of all. We are alive at the same time as these two. We get to watch this in real time. 20 years from now, people will talk about this era the way we talk about the legends we were born too late to see, and they will ask what it was like, and some of you will get to say you were in the building. The rest of us will say we watched the footage the night it dropped and felt the floor shake through a phone screen. Either way, we were here for it. So do not wait for the documentary. Do not wait for the anniversary specials. Do not wait until the flowers are being laid instead of handed over. Celebrate it now, loudly, while they can still hear it. If this breakdown gave you even a fraction of the chills that stadium felt, do me a favor and like this video so the algorithm knows the culture showed up. Subscribe and hit the bell, because when the next era of this story breaks, and it will break, I'm going to be right here dissecting every frame of it before the blogs even wake up. Drop your predictions, drop your favorite moment from the clip, and tell me which moment from these two legends you want me to break down next, because the vault of iconic Carter moments runs deep, and we are just getting started. The next video in this saga is already cooking, and if what I am hearing about what is coming next is even half true, Yankee Stadium was just the warm-up. Stay ready. I will see y'all in the next one. Peace.